This episode of the podcast is brought to you by our friends at Regrow, the premier cloud-based cannabis supply chain management system.
If you're a cannabis company searching for a strategic business partner to help you automate your business, scale effectively, and make the supply chain work for you, then you need to know about Regrow. Regrow is the first of its kind software that leverages components of leading ERP and supply chain systems with the necessary compliance of the cannabis industry. That's right, you'll get all aspects of regulatory compliance built in, with the added value of workforce management, inventory, SOP management, and reporting and metrics that allow for companies to scale successfully. So stop using the whiteboards, spreadsheets, and email to manage your cultivation, distribution, and manufacturing processes, and instead incorporate Regrow. Visit their website at regrow.io. That's regrow.io. Regrow, the premier cloud-based cannabis supply chain management system.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Relevant.
Hello, my fellow people of the plant. While I host the Cannabinoid Connect podcast, I'm also an avid podcast listener like you. And one thing that frustrates me from time to time is how the conversation is one way for the listener. But that's all about to change with the new app called Relevant. Relevant is an open messaging network that aims to unite our cannabis community and allow us to connect with each other. You can join live audio chat communities called Vibes, and you can discover and join any vibe you find interesting, then grab the live mic and voice your opinion freely about any topic related to the community while others join in or group chat. You can even create your own vibes for sports teams, podcasts like mine, Cannabinoid Connect, fan clubs, comedy, classes, basically anything you can imagine. So find your vibe today by downloading the Relevant app on the App Store and Google Play. That's Relevant, RELEVNT. No dead vibes, only good vibes with the Relevant app. Hello, my fellow people of the plant. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast, your favorite podcast that includes industry-facing conversations with the industry's leading experts that aim to educate and inform the public regarding the plant's endless benefits. My guest today is Rena Sherbill. She's the host of the Cannabis Investing podcast. We're recording.
Did it.
It is good to see you, my friend. How are you? It's been too long.
It's been too long. It's good to be back, my friend. Yeah, life. I have a cold, so change of seasons.
I have a cold too. I just got over it.
Both experiencing winter storms.
Yes. Isn't that so weird?
It is weird. It is. It's too weird. Have we ever been in the same room? Are we the same person?
I know, right? You're the female version of me in Israel, and I might be the male version of you in the US. I don't know.
Totally.
Huh?
We're repping both sides.
That's absolutely right. Yes. How have you dealt with this? The cold? I mean, are you over it? Is it?
I'm honestly just beginning. This weekend was rainy and we were up north on a family thing, and we were just like trying to experience all the things we were meant to experience and not get rained out of anything.
Right.
And catches up to you.
I feel you, man. Yeah, I'm just getting over it. But it was real quick. It was like 2 days, but yeah. It's the changing of seasons. It's spring's coming, everything's blossoming. There's a lot of pollen in the air, you know.
Absolutely. It is. 'Tis the season indeed.
Well, I appreciate you, pushing through this and joining me today. I would have, if you needed to rest, I totally get it. But awesome.
Well, you're pushing through, I'm pushing through, Kevin. Every day's a hustle, you know that.
Every day's a hustle, and the industry doesn't sleep. There has been so much that has gone on since we last talked. I don't even know where to start first.
It's impossible to know where to begin. The cannabis industry waits for no man, woman, child, any living, breathing organism. It's moving fast. It's like, I feel like from one thing to the next, you have to like catch up on all the minutia of what that actually means. And before you've kind of caught up to it, you're like, wait, what is happening now?
Right.
Yeah.
You hear something else like a new development that's happened in a different state, or, a new lawsuit from the government. They're trying to do certain things in the hemp industry. I mean, it's all over the place right now. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, let's pick a place to start. I mean, New York.
We can start with New York. I was actually going to start with what you have going on, because speaking of cannabis and hemp, I feel like that's an exciting place to start in terms of like building your place in the industry. Like, talk to me about what you have going on, because I feel like you're bigger, broader, badder than when we started.
Well, I appreciate you asking. Yeah. So, basically, as we've been talking on this podcast and what we've been hearing in terms of, it's just this lack of regulation or lack of enforcement of regulation has just kind of made the hemp industry in particular the wild west. And so, there are great actors in the industry that are working every day to self-govern and self-regulate themselves. And those are the type of partners and companies that Cannabinoid Nation, which is the company that I just launched and co-founded with, along with Gene White, that's what we want to do. We want to partner with those people that want to actually help the operators in the space and help them become more successful. So at a high level, it's a brokerage and consulting firm where we want to help operators in different aspects of the cannabis business development journey. So, whether it's the complexity of meeting regulatory compliance within the states to get started and register your business, or opening up a bank, it's really hard to find bank friendly cannabis, operators. So we just kind of help guide them through the steps: digital marketing, grow assessment consulting. I'm fortunate enough to have partnered with guy named Manny Ordaz out of New Mexico, who I've known since middle school, and he's just a master grower out there who's done real well, and he's expanding into Texas now. So he's another kind of consultant that we can push people to, like farmers who are looking to get started, and they can increase their likelihood of success, basically.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Was that always your plan going into it? Was that always the big vision?
It's, you know what, to be completely honest, before entering the cannabis space, I had been working on a business for like 3 or 4 years called BizTrack. And it was basically the same principle to increase the likelihood of success for entrepreneurs by walking them through the steps of setting up, managing, and growing their business. So that was just very difficult to get off the ground because I couldn't get, like pre-seed kind of funding to really build out the site the way it should work. And this, that, there's just a lot of challenges along the way that every entrepreneur faces. So I basically just kind of thought of that idea and kind of wanted to bring that over to the cannabis space, because that industry is the most complex there is, right? And starting a business is really complex. So I thought it was just a natural fit, and so yeah, that's kind of where it originated from.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love kind of these, like, I mean, it's kind of like the cannabis industry itself. You kind of can find your way in, and it expands kind of more than you were thinking it would, or you kind of weren't even sure how you would, and then you kind of just start somewhere because it's your interest, it's your love, and that's kind of like, and then it grows. It's so awesome.
It is so awesome. And that's how I see it, Rena. Like, I first started with the podcast, but like you said, there's so much opportunity and so much excitement going on that this is the space that I'm planning to live in. Like, this is my career. Like, this industry. I know that other people focus on telecoms. They've worked at companies like AT&T for 30 years, or you're in the tech space, but cannabis is new. It's fun, it's exciting, and I encourage anyone and everyone, if you're unhappy with your job in the current industry you're in, fuck the stigma, come out of the closet, the cannabis closet, and do it, because it's so rewarding and fulfilling. There's so much good that comes out of it. There really is.
And I feel like if you're somebody that wants to be bringing more good to it, it's also like a receptacle for like a lot of room for more good to be brought into this industry. So absolutely. I feel like if there's something to be brought, now's the time to do it. I feel like this is the building time. I mean, it's a little bit more than the building time for some, but I think there's still time for it to kind of like exactly what you've done is like get in and build something. I think there's still that kind of excitement and the disruption, and we haven't, kind of grown as much as we are going to by any means. So
Right.
yeah, it's exciting.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. And speaking of building, I've seen what you've been doing, Rena, and tell us about this new podcast that's focused on CEOs. I love that concept.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, it's been something I've been talking about for a long time. It's Seeking Alpha wanting to do that. and just kind of like figuring out our next, speaking of growing into what we want to be growing into, like kind of pushing Seeking Alpha's content to the next level. Like, I feel like we've already disrupted the financial news, opinion, and analysis with our written text. And then we've done it with our podcast, Cannabis Investing Podcast. Obviously, your favorite example of that. But I feel like now, I feel like the next iteration of like growing our content is videos, and also making the news and not just reporting it or not just commenting on it, but being a source for management to come on, for companies to come on. And, you know, so we've just started the CEO interviews last month. So I've interviewed like a handful of CEOs already. And I feel like what's really interesting, right? So I've already interviewed CEOs in the cannabis space. So I kind of have that, I've had that been building. But what I find so interesting is talking to CEOs from different spaces. We're still kind of focused on the disruptive spaces. So there's kind of that through line through the people that we're talking to. But what I found is, honestly, and I'm not like bullshitting, there's like an appreciation from management of like giving them a platform to talk, and not just like in a 15-second soundbite,
Right.
not just a headline, but actually explain. And tomorrow, I mean, this is not cannabis related, but I do feel like it touches on some points. We're having the CEO of Rap on, and they're kind of developing a safer way of policing, you know, less violent. You know, and this whole notion of like in the cannabis industry, we're trying to do things better. We're trying to write like racist, historic, completely ridiculous laws that we have on the books, and doing it better. And I feel like we're trying to give people in that space the space to talk about that, and not just in the tiniest amount of time where you can't really understand exactly like the context and the background. So
Right.
yeah,
We need to cut to the Tide commercial break. Sorry. Like, don't
exactly.
finish your thought. We'll come back. Like
Exactly.
it's too old. That's too old school at this point. We want complete dialogues, and podcasts allow you to do that. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like playing with mediums and playing with forms, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I feel like there's room right now to keep pushing and growing and figuring ourselves out, and like where we want to be, and what we kind of want to be doing. And I'm excited, and I feel like being on this podcast, listening to podcasts, like being a part of an industry that is always pushing, it like I feel like feeds that, you know, and it's exciting to kind of like see that and be a part of it, and want to kind of keep contributing to the ecosystem. So yeah, it's been really a very busy time, but a very exciting time. It's really been fun.
100%. Yeah. And I love the whole premise of it, of what you just explained, because we, you know, there are stakeholders, there are retail investors, people that are invested in these companies, and transparency is something that they want. Right. And the fact that you can provide a platform for these, you know, these leaders, these executives within these large companies, to really come on and talk about real issues that are happening, whether it's in their company or within the industry, that's super valuable to have, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I feel like bringing it, what the other kind of thing that we're trying to do more with CEO interviews, and I've done also with the Cannabis Investing Podcast, is like put it out there on social media more. And I feel like that's the next level of the content, is the engagement with social media is like not just about trying to get more eyeballs on your content, but I really feel like it grows the content exponentially when you're having educated, informed, smart people commenting. People that wouldn't see us on Seeking Alpha may see us on Seeking Alpha now, but people that are seeing us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it is, YouTube, and are commenting. And, you know, I know that that's true for your community, your audience as well. And it's just kind of like, you think you have an audience, and just by putting it in a few places, you grow it so much. And that is also like a real nice part of this new frontier that I think we're all like a part of in this 21st century world.
Yeah. It shows the thirst for education and like, you know, curiosity of the plant, right? Like, because I mean, in any subject matter, there's people out there that are talking about, there's communities, there's niche communities that are engaging about that content, but especially in cannabis, just because again of but how much news and different things that are trending that's going on, and states coming online, and the curiosity about the plant itself, because we just are just scratching the surface of even understanding the efficacy of it, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's pretty wild. It's exciting for sure.
Yeah, and be sure to know who you're following, that they're telling you like the right thing. I was just watching somebody talking about that. Like, we're all getting our knowledge from somewhere, whether it's passive or active, and you better be kind of like confident in the source that you're getting it from. So I feel like that's also, in this space of consumption, it's also important to like read the labels of what you're consuming.
For sure, absolutely, yes. One type of cannabis platform that I'd like to see in the podcast space, maybe you and I can do it. Uh,
Yeah.
just straight on debates, like get a hardcore prohibitionist, and then you get someone in the science community, you know, and then
It's a good,
just have them talk and just see, literally, because you hear so many ridiculous claims, false claims on the prohibitionist side. We've heard them as of recent. I think even Greg Kelly tweeted, I had to take a screenshot of it. He said something about that what Hunter Biden smoked was not as bad as what weed does, and that when he smoked weed back in the day, he ended up in Kenya 4 days later.
I
But
saw that.
yeah, so I'm saying those types of claims, right? Like, let's get those with someone who is in the science community, and then let's talk about that, and let's see, because I think that we could really kind of uncover some truths there, you know?
Yeah, you're going to need somebody with a lot more patience than I have to talk to somebody that is like still tweeting nonsense like that. That there's no way they even believe that. Like, to
They
me,
can't
that's
believe
just
it.
yeah, it's just a game of nonsense. So like, I think it's a great idea, and I'm also hesitant about how much the people spouting nonsense are doubling down and going to die on the mountaintop of nonsense.
Right.
Like,
And then they
yeah,
should do like a bet, like, okay, if you lose, you have to take one hit of a joint in a legal state, you know what I mean? And then tell us how you feel afterward.
and
And
not a different country just to prove your point.
yeah. Oh my gosh. It's
Yeah,
fun. It's fun though. It's entertaining. It's all part of it. You know what I mean? I think they're gonna have to change their playbook up a bit. I've said that in the past because those claims aren't gonna work. So strategy needs to
yeah.
change a little. But again, that would be a pretty cool format. Maybe we can make it happen on Cannabinoid
I'm
Connect.
down. I'm down. I'm down. I think it would be really fun to watch that debate happen. I feel like it would be a good thing to do.
Kevin
I,
Sa-
I
Kevin Sabit would be good on the prohibitionist side because I know he's very vocal.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. We'll
Do it.
think about
I'm looking forward to it. Do it. Do it.
it.
So speaking of, what do you hear about Texas? I know you've got your eyes and ears probably closer to that information source than I do. What do you hear over there?
Yeah, so my initial focus as of recent, it shifted to Texas, but it was in on New Mexico, the state that
Mhm.
I was born and raised
Yeah,
in. And obviously, you heard that they have become adult use. They got it done. The governor called a special session because they didn't make it in time in the Senate to agree on all the amendments and get it voted on. So that special session helped. The bill, I think, was renamed HB2, and yeah, so that was good. And then now in Texas, legalization obviously is not even on the table for discussion, really. I think it's been brought up, but it's not going to get past the House. They are talking about expanding the medical program. When I say expand, I don't know if that means like legal, I mean, medical, like in other states that we've seen, where you can just kind of go in, and I mean, they might restrict it to certain ailments and patients, right? But at least it's a start, so that's good. And
that's
yeah,
yeah, that's much what it's like in Israel right now in terms of the medical. It's like pretty hard to get a medical card unless you really have one of a few um, maladies.
right, yeah. And then on the hemp side in Texas, I think one of the big things that they were debating was the percentage of THC cap for
Hmm.
hemp plants. And farmers and operators are pushing for 1%, which is totally fair. Like, it's at 0.3 right now, and the plant naturally produces THC, so you can't ever remove it, and Texas is hot. So it's really easy to destroy your crop, or have to destroy it if it goes above that 0.3%. So that's something
Yes,
that they're also talking about.
it's one of those nonsense laws that you feel like we should be getting away from the nonsense laws. And it seems like some people are digging in their heels.
They're digging in their heels, but I mean, it's just an education thing. It's
Yeah.
like, it's just, there's been so much stigma and so much amount of time, 100 years of just non-talking about this, like non-learning about this, like all these different variables where we're playing catch up. And, there's been so much red tape and regulation already put in place that,
Yeah.
that it's like hard to peel back the onion, and so that's where, you know, and a lot of the Texas advocates and operators did a great job. I mean, they were at the Capitol. Like a lot of people that I've had on the podcast, in fact, Shada Tarabi was out there. I know that the Grow House Texas media team, Liz and Patrick, and even Jesse Kearns from New Bloom Labs. So just a lot of people. Amos, another one. I got to give all the shout outs, but they did a great job, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. 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 It's exciting to watch. I mean, Texas going medical, I think, would be huge. Even under those parameters would be huge.
I think so too. Yeah. And I think that the state's going to be more open to it. I mean, with all these neighboring states, Texas is
Yeah.
a red, you know, um, state that likes to make money. I mean, we're a business state. So when they start to see our residents leaving to neighboring Oklahoma or, wherever to pick up their eighth, then I think
Right.
they're going to reconsider.
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
talked about today's episode with John Sandelman how there's like no interstate commerce, but there kind of is interstate commerce.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're on vacation and you're in a state, that's so cool, right? You're like, oh my God, we gotta check out a dispensary. It's one of the first things that you do when you go to a new place, like Colorado back in the day when it first came online. That's what we were excited about. And then you go in there and you're like, all these different products are so new. You're like, oh my God, there's a drink. It's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. It's
So
exciting. It's
yeah.
exciting. I remember going to the West Coast, my friend going to the West Coast for the first time, and his brother was like, bring your wallet. You're gonna be spending it's exciting for the first, it's like this and blueberries and this. Yeah.
Right. And then you look at your wallet though, and you're like, oh shoot,
Yeah.
okay, I spent a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
bit of money there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
uh,
Give money to those MSOs and watch our stock soar. So
that's
hopefully
right.
it's
Well, and that's a good segue. So I mean, it's been rough out there lately.
it's been rough
Uh,
out there.
and I think that it was Ben Kovler who responded to one of my tweets, and he said it's day one.
Yeah.
And you know, I get that because the markets reflect that. But what specific do you think he means, like, and how that relates to the cannabis industry?
Well, I mean, I take it to mean when I say you got to have patience, like the same thing that we're just, all the metaphor, all the cliched metaphors, like we're in the first inning, the train is just bored, we haven't left the station. Like, I do feel like that's all true because, right, everybody, it seems, that has something smart to say about what's going on in the cannabis industry is in agreement that this is kind of a settling up period in the sector because the stocks did go high on this certain excitement. Some of it unrealized, some of it just speculative. And stocks went soaring. And I feel like this is like the come back down to earth moment. Who's to say how long this is going to last? I don't know. Does it last till some form of safe banking passes? Does it last till I don't know. But I do feel like there's a certain reckoning that's not not tied to reality.
Right.
In other words, that is tied to reality. for those not following double negative.
It's not opposite day.
I feel like it's mostly that. And I feel like also, I mean, I talk about this, I feel like every time I'm on your show, is just like the difference between investing and trading. And like, you got to be in it for some kind of long term if you're investing. And I don't play the trading game. And, that the trading game to me seems very, very stressful, especially if you're watching that go up and down all the time. That seems to me like hella stressful. So yeah, that's I think my take on it. But I feel like what Ben Kovler and what people bullish on the industry are saying is that we're going to get there. You're going to get those numbers that you want to get. because the ones that are doing it the best are really doing it quite well. And that's what's so hard to take, is that here's this good news that we've been waiting for, but it's not being realized in the share price. But I think it already was. Right. And now we just have to get to the next level.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you. And to add on to that, I think that if more people, and I think that some of the leaders within the MSO space have said it, like Jason Wild and others, and they're so right. And if more people understood this, they'd be more at ease. And that is, it's really a win-win, because the sooner federal legalization happens, then the big players come in and buy up these MSOs, and it's kind of game over at that point in terms of the runway in which these MSOs could have grown, right? So like, just sit back and enjoy it. Like, if it's a discounted price and you have some extra capital, like, why not? You know what I mean? If you know that they're going to be successful, which the numbers have shown, and so I mean, it is a long-term play, for sure.
Agreed. I'm gonna take a drink.
No, you're good. And what was your other point about I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
Interstate commerce, the US, big players doing well, good news happening.
I think it's all good news. And I was surprised that there wasn't a spike with New York announcement. I really was. That was interesting. But safe banking, and Schumer continues to push it. I think that he's going to have to change the mind of his boss, in the presidential office with Biden, but that could happen. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I feel like I think a lot of people were surprised that New York wasn't more of a bang bang moment in the market. I wonder if kind of people were just kind of assuming that it was going to happen. But yeah, I do feel like no matter what happens with Biden, whether he gets convinced or not, I feel like my bet is not on the political system. My bet is on the consumer wanting cannabis.
Right.
And that's going to happen because that's what's already happening.
Right. You know what, Rena, actually, when you said that about New York and the bang bang, like, what I made me think of, and tell me what your thoughts are here. Maybe it didn't get a boom, after the New York announcement, because of just simply like the awareness of
totally.
Like, of course, everybody from the offset sees that there are states coming online and they are going adult use, and they're seeing that momentum for cannabis. But I don't think that they understand that there's these MSOs that are listed within the Canadian exchanges, and you can buy stock right now. Like, that's just starting to kind of, be told, that story.
Absolutely. And this goes back to the education. Yeah, absolutely. I think like the tickers are not understood. Investors watching CNBC. I mean, I had a whole Twitter thread with Tim Seymour and the CNBC, who I feel like is doing a good job in turning that around. Everybody. Yeah, Seeking Alpha also. I mean, everybody has to do a better job of understanding what tickers belong where and who has the ability to get in. And even if you have the ability to get in, when do you have the ability to get in, and which companies are best suited and who has the licenses, and all of those things. It behooves investors to know what it means to have a license in New York and to be vertically integrated from before the law went into existence. So definitely a lot about it is education. And I also feel like what you're saying is true. Also, with Biden being elected, all these states simultaneously went online, and it was like Biden and Kamala Harris and all these states. Oh my God, let's go. But that's jumping the gun. So I think not reacting to New York was kind of, I think, the after effects of that.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's going to be kind of a quiet period now until probably, like you said, safe banking or something else big is introduced, or maybe another state. Who knows?
Yeah. And I think sometimes we don't even know what's going to be the catalyst. I think sometimes there's a big announcement that nobody saw coming, or I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm surprised by what the impetus is for the sector going on fire. And then sometimes I'm surprised it's not going on fire, so.
Right. And what about sundial growers? Did you hear about one of the Reddit stocks, man? I can't tell you how many people would ask me, what do you think about sundial?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and uh and it's simply because the awareness issue and the fact that it's able to easily trade within Robinhood. Like if you look up a cannabis stock, that's one of the first ones that comes up,
Hmm.
along with Aurora, and so it's things are going to change, and that goes back to the win-win scenario, because it's all good. You know what I mean? Once this all plays out and people hear more about it, it's just gonna, again, the prices are going to continue to rise.
I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. You got to pay attention to the ones doing it right now, because they're going to be the ones that are still going to be doing it right.
Right. Who have you been impressed with, like, lately? Like, have you had any new guests on that from companies we haven't talked about, or like what's going on in your world?
Did I talk to you last time about Bina Goldenberg from Supreme Cannabis? I'm not sure if I talked to her. I'm kind of having deja vu that I either did or didn't.
Yeah.
But they just got acquired by Canopy Growth. They're a small Canadian player. She's totally turned that company around. She's the CEO, Bina Goldenberg. Just kind of got them on a really, strategized place in terms of what they're spending their money on. And it's kind of like a play on the high quality premium cannabis in Canada. It's a smaller player. They just got bought up, so they're going to have even more cash
Nice.
to play with. That's kind of like a outside the US smaller player that I like. People are going crazy about the InterCure subversive deal in Israel to keep it outside for another minute.
You've mentioned subversive several times, and I've added them to my watch list. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that when it gets closer to that deal being actualized, I think the marketplace is getting more and more excited. And then kind of what's happening in the States, I mean, that Mercer Park, California deal with Glass House.
That was huge. Yeah.
Was huge. Yeah, it was huge. And I'm very curious to see what happens in California. I mean, it seems right now that like that entity and the parent company are like the dominant California players, because they've bought up almost everybody there is to buy up.
Right.
It feels like right now that's the battle in California, and seeing how it goes. I kind of talked about this because we had John Sandelman from Air. He's the CEO of Air Wellness. He's also the chairman of Mercer Park, who did this deal with Glass House. And just being interested we recorded that interview before the deal was done, but I found it very interesting to hear him talk about, also in the announcement when it was released, about this notion of what they're trying to do in California is more a play that has nothing to do with federal legalization, because California is such a big market. Right. And even what's being taken, like, kind of illicitly is flowing all over the States. Like, that's how much in demand California cannabis is.
I believe that.
Yeah, so I feel like what they're doing with the Mercer Park Air Wellness is interesting. I feel like Air Wellness, a SPAC kind of created both of them. And so I feel like Air Wellness is a play on the evolution of the legalizing industry. And then the Mercer Park is a play on this dominant brand, what's going to be known when cannabis is like probably sold in 7-Eleven or whatever.
Right.
And then, I mean, this is total speculation on my part. I do not have any inside information, but I imagine those two entities come together at some point and create some kind of crazy behemoth of a cannabis company that is dominating the entire States. That's my conjecture after spending the last few days like super annoyed that I didn't break the Mercer Park deal. So like really studying that deal and really understand like what they're trying to do there and why they didn't go through Air Wellness. And that's my take on that. So I feel like that's very exciting to and also he's a super duper capable steward of capital. I feel like they're one of the best run. Air Wellness is one of the best run cannabis companies. So it's exciting to see what that team does.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good take. I mean, and you've met with this guy firsthand. You're in it. And so when you talk about the two Goliaths, the parent company, what's your speculation there? What are they
Yeah,
doing?
I feel like there's room for both to be winners. I mean, it's a huge market. Also, just in terms of the brands that they acquired, like there was a part of me when when Mercer announced that deal with Glass House where I was like, oh, whoa, that's the California play. But I am still bullish on the parent company. I feel like they have a great suite of brands. I also feel like they're good stewards of capital. That share price I think is freaking a lot of people out in terms of like that it's not doing much, but sliding. But I do feel like it's coming to the fore. I think they're laying groundwork in a certain way.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're going to hit the way that I think they're going to hit. I just think, as Ben Kovler said,
Day
you
one,
know,
I know. So, I mean, have you had any other interesting guests on? Like, what's stood out to you recently, in some of the work that you've been doing?
honestly, Tim Seymour was my favorite guest recently. He was awesome. I felt like he co-hosts Fast Money on CNBC. He's a of portfolio manager of CNBS. He runs Seymour Asset. He's also, I believe, a consultant to the company with Jason Wild, whose company name I'm blanking on right now, and JW
Asset Management, yeah.
JW Asset. Um, and so, in other words, he has his information coming from pretty much every angle you would want in the US cannabis industry. So I feel like he really sees so much. He's seen the landscape in 3D, I feel like. And he was just like really honest about what it means to be, hosting a show on CNBC in terms of like dealing with the misinformation and dealing with, and I felt like it was just a really honest take because it was addressing the fact that it's partly misinformation, it's partly lack of education, it's partly that not everybody is going to have a deep understanding of the cannabis sector. So when somebody says, oh, the cannabis sector is on fire, you pick out the cannabis companies that have the biggest market cap or that have the most institutional capital or whatever it is, and you don't know,
Right.
and dealing with that side of it, and also coupled with the fact, which I think is very real world, that it's this like vicious cycle that like because these companies are the ones whose tickers are being shown, because they have the institutional capital, because they're traded on the senior exchanges. So yeah, that's where people are going to put their money on if they don't totally understand the play or the sector or what is coming down the pipe. And so I feel like it made me understand. I'm kind of a bit of a conspiracy theorist. That's the core of who I am. Like I question everything and pull it apart.
That's not a bad thing. That's a
I
good
don't
thing.
think so either. I do not say it like a bad thing. No, I think conspiracy theories get a bad rap because of Hollywood and because of some real true nuts. But I feel like there's a lot, what's that phrase? Like if you're not pissed off, you're not paying attention. I mean,
Right.
there's so much going on that we don't know. So I feel like it's in me it's in my core to kind of like want to pick things apart and come at it from like, why are they doing that? But hearing him talk, like it really made me understand just kind of like the temporality of the world that we live in and how just like one misinformed decision by a major financial site like can affect this, that, and the other, kind of fill in the blank of what that can affect.
Right.
So I guess I really appreciated his take and also his honesty, which I am more and more encouraged by. I don't know if you feel the same way, like interviewing a lot of people in this space. Like I always feel like more and more encouraged by, I feel like most of the people that I talk to really want to say the truth in like a real way and not give me some kind of like BS, answer to kind of mollify what I'm really trying to get at.
I totally agree. There's a lot of authenticity in the industry, and it's really because you have to be, because again, we talked about earlier, it's kind of the wild wild west with either no regulation or lack of enforcement of regulation, and so there's just a lot of people playing in the space. And I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to, just start with my business that we talked about earlier, and it's like, Well, I wanted to screen you first and really get to know your background because I've talked to people, in your space before, and they've got burned, or so there's a lot of mistrust, and the more authentic you can be and real about it, people appreciate that for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had Alicia Ralliff. She was another person that I talked to recently. Her and her husband run Victus Consulting. She's also like a chief scientist, but she also has this consulting company. And they were saying the same thing, how they started it because there are so many, nefarious actors who are just trying to kind of like take you for a ride. And I think the people that are doing a good job, like do a good job of talking about how they're being transparent and what they can bring. I think from consultants down to like operators of companies, the ones that are being transparent, the ones that have something to say, are the ones you should be listening to, and the ones that are kind of trying to hide behind nonsense or headlines, or, it's not happening so much anymore because I feel like we're getting more sophisticated as retail investors. But yeah, I feel like it always is nice to see somebody being transparent and authentic.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes just for life in general, right? I mean, you want somebody who's going to be honest and truthful with you and open with you, and not fake. No one likes a fake friend. So it's the same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what do you have coming up? Like, I'm sure you got more podcasts. So how are you, and then how are you divvying up your time? So the CEO platform is one, but then you're still hosting the Cannabinoid investing podcast also, right?
Yeah, great question. My time is not being divided up equally. It's like I feel like I'm all over the place. Also, like I'm doing like so many parts of the editing and the interviewing, and there's like it's a full service operation right now until kind of like we scale it to the next level. So it is a lot of interviewing and researching and talking and posting to social media and all of that stuff.
I'm right there with you. Yep,
You
it's a
know,
lot.
how it starts something, and it's like some days you feel like you're on top of this mountain and you're like so deeply energized by it and it's amazing and you feel like you could go for the next 10 hours, and other times you're like, is anything happening here? Like am I doing something? Or like so tired you don't even care what you're doing.
Yeah, the days that you have like 2 or 3 podcasts to record and you're energized, it's like, okay, I'm ready for it. But then if it's a day where you're just kind of sluggish or not feeling as, like energized, it's a rough day. It's a long day. You gotta.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's I feel like I gain a lot of strength from people like you that are like out there doing their thing, and
Oh,
like,
Rena, that's nice of you
no,
to say.
seriously, it's nice. Like I feel like being out on social media and like hearing and talking to people and like getting encouraged and like, yeah, it's like powerful to be like putting something out there that you're creating and starting. And with all of that comes all of the kind of like difficulties also. But I think at the end of the day, you really want to be doing what you're doing, and that kind of like leads you through the days where you're like, another interview, how can that possibly be? What? And
No,
then and
yeah.
and then sorry, but also I sometimes I'm also just like really energized by the people I'm talking to, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I love doing this, because like I'm like, oh, another interview, and then I'm talking to the person, I'm like, oh my god, I freaking love what I'm doing.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. Well, hey, I appreciate the kind words, and I feel the same way when I see you doing your thing and posting, and it's like we push and motivate each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And talk about energizing with guests. You're definitely, of course, one of them. I even told you before we recorded one time, I'm like, we got to schedule these at 9 a.m. my time because I feel the most like energized and fresh in the morning. And I know that we always just have great conversations. And to your point, you're right. Like there's times where I've been like, oh, I've one more podcast, here we go. And then once you're in it and you're learning so much, and that you got a really good give and take with that person and you're vibing, it's awesome.
Yeah.
People really
Yeah.
do feed off of each other.
Absolutely. 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 I also like I've been thinking about this for the last like couple of weeks, this notion of like, kind of the cliche where people say, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yes.
And I feel it's true to a point, but I also feel like you're still working, like we're still working and it's work. It's not, we're not kicking back and having a spliff. Like, we're for those of you who are European inclined.
Right.
I feel like there's this notion of like loving what you do, but also knowing that it's work, but also it being very fulfilling. Anyways, I don't know. It's something I've been thinking.
No, I want to play along off of that because it makes me think about, and I'm always going to tie it back to cannabis, of course, but the endocannabinoid system is kind of our homeostasis. It kind of keeps everything regulated, right? And I'm a firm believer that in life you should have a balance of everything, right? Like whether it be work, play, relationship, this, everything should kind of all, of course, then you would dedicate more if you need to one thing at that time, without it harming you or others. But my question is like, to your point, if you find what you love to do, you don't work a day in your life. But then, like, what's the goal? Because some people will say they want to retire and kick back and enjoy the fruit of their loins, right? And then you've got others that will get bored when they're retired because they don't have a sense of purpose anymore and they want to continue working. So what is,
Totally. Totally. Like, what are we living for? Yeah. What are we working for? What are we striving for? Is it like, I remember, this is also to tie it to cannabis. I remember Seth Rogen, somebody was like, man, you smoke so much weed. Like, how do you like get through your day smoking that much weed? And he's like, most everybody that I talked to is waiting for the minute their work ends so they can go home and like smoke some cannabis and chill out. He's like, I'm doing that all day, but I'm also working. So I'm not trying to say that we should all be like smoking while we're doing everything to enjoy it. That's not my point. But my point is to like not look at it as this thing of like, oh my God, wait till I am done with this and then. But it's like to enjoy, even when we're stressed and tired and wondering how we're going to get to that next interview, to be like, but wait, I'm doing this because I want to, and this is the way of doing it. And I'm a little bit tired right now, but I know that, this is going to like fill me and fuel me and bring something to other people, hopefully. So yeah, I feel like there's a mentality that I feel like I don't love, where it's like, I'm going to work and scrimp and save for 25 years so I can retire at 40. Like that to me is for me, that is no kind of life. Like, I like to enjoy what I'm doing along the way. So yeah,
100%. And to your point, it could be part of your lifestyle, and it's just a way to enhance your life, and it does for a lot of people. And Seth Rogen's right. I mean, I agree with him. I'm right there with him.
Yeah. And even that intention, like, you don't like, I feel like need to be high to have that intention also.
Right.
I feel like it can be a part of your lifestyle, and understanding that it's like, you can bring a certain elevated consciousness to things.
Mm-hmm. And there's so much that goes into, being in the right place in your life. And I'm not saying that I am, like, we're always working to it, right? But it goes back to that balance and like, what are you consuming? What is your daily activity like? Are you getting any exercise? Do you have good relationships? Like, are you stressed? Are you, all these different things play a factor, and it's just trying to maintain and manage those things.
Totally. Warren Buffett's, do you know that Warren Buffett's number one piece of advice is to pick your life partner, like how you pick your life partner? Because he's like, that's going to be the source of so much of your, whatever, your joy, your lack of joy. That's so much of it. I always found that really, I discovered that like a bunch of years ago. I was like, that's awesome. Like you're thinking he's going to be like value invest or whatever it is.
Well,
like who you're going to sleep with at night.
And it speaks so many truths. Like, he's been so successful in the financial side, right? He's got all this money, but he says the most important thing is your life partner. Like that, that says something,
Yeah, totally.
Yep. Rena, I always enjoy these. I'm ready. Like, I'm energized today. I got 2 more. I'm excited to learn and talk and educate about cannabis. And I really appreciate your time.
Me too, brother. And to next time, I always enjoy my time with you. And I'm already excited for the next time, but I'm happy to have done it today. glad to give you some energy. You gave me some. I also have an interview coming up. So
Awesome.
Godspeed on the conversations.
One love, my girl. Have a great week, okay?
Peace,
All right.
brother.
Bye.
Bye. Talk to you.